Hey folks, this is a little video about the introduction to language that we're going to work on today. And yeah, this is a little bit of background about language families, which we're not going to be able to get to in the normal class. So I'm going to ask you to do a little work outside of class. So let's go ahead and get started. And here goes. Um, so today we're going to talk about, as it says here, where are the world's languages distributed? And like I said, I'm going to do this as a little bit of a preview to what we'll be doing next in class. So here we go. So we're actually on page 23 in the booklet. So I'm going to ask you to jot down a few notes. And I'll try to indicate when and where on what pages you should do that, because we're actually going to be skipping around a little bit in some of the pages and we'll come back to some things. But first thing I want to do is define language. And so as it says here, language is a collection of sounds that a group of people understand as having the same meaning. And again, we're on page 23 at the top, and that's where you can be jotting down some of these notes. So essentially, that's all language is, a collection of sounds that a group of people understand as having the same meaning. And so, by the way, if you're wondering what's a dialect and those sorts of things, or how do you decide if something's a language versus a dialect, we will actually talk about that more in the next couple days. So don't worry about that. There's about 7,000 identified languages, which seems to me like a lot, you think about it, but yeah, there's many languages that are all over the world. Most of them, and we'll talk about this, are not written down and never have been. So just a real quick connection to the migration unit, migrants always take their language with them. And in terms of a geography topic, that's important to keep in mind. So, and again, an important connection to the migration unit. I'm going to skip ahead to page 25, and I just want to talk a little bit about how languages are broken down by linguists and geographers. They're broken down into different categories, and again on page 25, where it says organization of languages, I want you to identify and jot this down, that languages, the biggest grouping, the largest grouping of languages is called a language family. And that's actually what we're going to be focusing on today. And there's often a common ancestral language well before recorded history. So that's what a language family is. So I think about it in two ways. First of all, it's the largest grouping, and it's where there's commonalities in the language. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can figure out if something belongs to one family or another. But essentially, there was for every language family, there was some common ancestral language. And sometimes people have guesses as to what that language was, and sometimes not. But it's before recorded history. So we have no evidence of it necessarily. We don't have it written down. We don't have it, certainly don't have it recorded. So that's a language family, okay? And then the next division is a branch. So within the language families, every language family has branches. And so this is a collection within a family that had a common ancestral language a few thousand years ago. And that varies a lot. It could be a few thousand years ago, it could be 1,000 years ago, it could be, a couple hundred years ago. But either way, it does have a common ancestral language, but it was quite some time ago. It's a language branch. And so if you're wondering, and we'll talk a lot more about this, but language family English belongs to is in a language family called Indo-European. And the branch that English belongs to is something called Germanic, the Germanic branch, okay? And then the last designation is called a group. And so this is where there's common origins from a relatively recent past. And so these languages often have many similarities, although they're usually not understandable by two different people who speak two different languages. So for example, English's language family, again, is Indo-European, language family or language branch for English is Germanic, and the language group is called West Germanic. And the West Germanic languages are also like Dutch, and one called Frisian. And so there's a lot of similarities between English and Dutch, for example. Okay. Okay, so now here's a little kind of a graphic that shows the Indo-European language family, and it shows the different branches. So the branches are Indo-Iranian, Hellenic, Celtic, Italic, Balto-Slavic, and Germanic, as I talked about. Then this is our language group down here, West Germanic. Okay, and we'll talk a lot more about this later. What I want to talk about now are these different language families. And so according to your textbook kind of breaks them down. They talk about, I believe it's 15 different language families that are the most widely spoken language families. Now, these are not individual languages, these are language families. And within these language families are dozens and dozens of different languages. And but they focus on, I think, that the biggest 15. Now, there are others that don't show up, but they have selected 15 to focus on because those are the most widely spoken, okay? And they've created this little graphic to show this is Indo-European, the Indo-European branch, the biggest by number of speakers. Here's the Sino-Tibetan branch. And then there's some theories about, are they connected somehow down here in like our ancestral past? Okay, let's move on. So this graph on page 25 just shows you a little bit, real quickly, the number of speakers in each branch. I'm sorry, in each family. And so, and Indo-European is by far the biggest number of speakers, okay? And the next one is Sino-Tibetan, and we'll talk more about that, Niger, Congo, et cetera, et cetera. But it's important to note the top two by far, and this is a number of speakers, and I don't think this is just native speakers. This is also people who have learned this language. So a lot of people have learned, you know, they might speak their native language and French. They might speak their native language and Spanish, and that they would count in this Indo-European. Okay, so let's move on and talk a little bit about the language family. So now I'm on page 26. What I'd actually like you to do is just to take a minute and pause. Go ahead and pause the video. But what I want you to do is on page 26, there is a map, and there's also one on page 27. And that corresponds to the map on page 150 and 151 in your textbook. Okay. And so what I would like you to do is put this down, 150 to 151. In a minute, when I tell you, go ahead and pause this. And what I'd like you to do is color these maps. So you're going to have to fill in the key with different color coded, and then do that for both the Western Hemisphere countries and languages, which is on this page, and then on the next page, on page 27, is many more languages, and those are for the Eastern Hemisphere. So again, right now, take a minute to actually recreate this map in your booklet. Complete that on pages 26 and 27, and then you're looking at the maps on pages 150 and 151 in your textbook. So take a minute to do that, come back, and I will talk a little bit about them. Okay, come on back, folks, and hopefully you're back. And now let's talk a little bit about what you should know about these languages. So this is in your textbook, and the textbook reading actually also asks you to read about this and jot down some notes and things like that. I think it's also helpful for you to get some of this from me, and so that's what I'm going to do. And I will try to alert you and put some things in the margins and things like that that I think are most important things for you to also jot down on your map, some kind of key features of of each one of these maps. So the first thing to note in the Western Hemisphere, the Americas, is that by far the largest language family spoken is Indo-European. And so this beige here is Indo-European, right? As it says in the key. And so the things to know about Indo-European are, of course, in the North America, it tends to be English, right? And French, right? But then in South America, the Indo-European languages are primarily Spanish and Portuguese, right? And for the most part, those are the Indo-European languages spoken in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas. In addition to that, there are also lots of other languages spoken. And in fact, in the green on here, you can see the green would be other language families. Now, they don't include other language families, the smaller ones in here, but they would certainly be these green language families that would be spoken by native peoples of the Americas. So up here in the Arctic, and then in Amazon River Basin, a lot of different language families spoken. The one language family that is big enough to get on this map, according to your textbook, is a language family called Quechua. And Quechuan is, or Quechua or Quechuan is, is spoken in the Andes. And this was spoken by, the people called the, descendants of the Inca people. So I don't know if I spelled descendants right, but the descendants of the Inca people is this people who spoke a language family called Quechua or Quechuan. Now, within the Quechuan language family, there are branches and then groups and then, of course, different languages. So again, keep in mind that that's not just one language being spoken, that's many different languages. So in Western Hemisphere, there's essentially two large language families with many, many other small ones. Okay, so now we're going to go to the Eastern Hemisphere, and we're going to look at a few things in a little more detail. The first thing to note is, once again, there are in terms of total breadth and distribution of languages, Indo-European is by far the largest. You can see that the languages in Europe are many, and we'll talk a lot more about them, but they're Spanish and Portuguese and English and French and German and Italian and Dutch and Polish and Ukrainian and Russian, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can see here that also the Indo part of Indo-European is languages like Hindi and Farsi and Urdu here in India and Pakistan and Afghanistan and Iran. So all these languages are related to each other, and they're all called Indo-European languages. Okay, and then you see, of course, down here in Australia, they speak English, and same with South Africa over here and New Zealand. So those are some other language places where they speak Indo-European. Now, also in, you can see the green, which we've talked about, is this other category. And those are, of course, native languages of New Guinea and some of the Aboriginal people of Australia. Okay, so that's Indo-European is, again, very broadly indicated here. The next one I want to talk about is one called Uralic. And Uralic is here, and it's this language family that is in a few different places. It's called Uralic because it's related to the Ural Mountains, which are here, Ural Mountains. And then some of the languages of the Uralic are Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian. So Uralic has, as I said, has Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian. And what's interesting about them is they're in Europe, but not Indo-European. So these languages, these Uralic languages, which are here, again, Finland, Estonia here, Hungary here, smack dab in the middle of Europe. These languages are not related at all to the other Indo-European languages, which is kind of interesting. If you've ever been to a place like Hungary or Finland or Estonian, normally when you can look at signs, street signs, or menus at restaurants, and you can kind of figure it out if you're in another language. There's at least some words that look familiar, but not with Uralic languages because they're not Indo-European. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so Uralic, in Europe, but not part of the Indo-European language family. The next one I want to look at real quickly is this one called Altaic. So Altaic is related to Turkish is the most widely spoken. Okay, Turkish is the most widely spoken, and it's the language of family of Central Asia. So this language family is called Altaic, and again, like I said, it's mostly Turkish is most widely spoken, but it's all these languages of like the stands here, and again, Turkish obviously over here. So these people are all ethnically, kind of linguistically more related to each other, these Central Asian people. We've talked about these Uyghur people out here, these Muslim Uyghurs that are in Western China. Those people speak a language that's much more closely associated with Turkish than it would be to Chinese. Same thing with Mongolian people and the people of the stands, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, et cetera, et cetera. That's Altaic. Okay. Next one to talk about is Sino-Tibetan. And Sino is the prefix for Chinese. I've never known certainly or for sure why, but Sino-Tibetan. And so again, Sino means Chinese. And this is the second most widely spoken family. And a Chinese language called Mandarin is most spoken in the world. So in terms of just one language, within the Sino-Tibetan language family, there's a language called Mandarin. And most Chinese people speak Mandarin. So this is one of those things where we talked about, the communist government making everybody be on the same time zone in China. Well, in addition to that, one of the things the Chinese Communist government also has required people to do is learn Mandarin, because Mandarin is it's kind of like the universal Chinese language. Even though there are other different types of Chinese that are spoken, but Mandarin is the most widely spoken language in China, and it's also the most widely spoken language in the world. So there's that. Okay. The next one I want to talk about real quickly is this one. It's called Austronesian. So this one that encompasses all these island peoples. Okay. So it includes, this is called Austronesian. And we'll see this, it's in the islands of the Pacific and Indian Oceans. So these were like a seafaring people. A lot of these people, they got around because they traveled around by boat and from different places. By the way, just really quickly, Austro, for those of you who don't know, Austro equals south, okay? So if you're wondering what that prefix is, Austronesian, Australian, we'll see that in a couple other places. So yeah, these people are all related, which is interesting. The people of Madagascar over here are actually more closely related to like the people of Samoa out here in the South Pacific than they are to Africans, even though they're right off the coast of Africa. So at least linguistically, all these people are very are closely related in this Austronesian language family. Next one I want to briefly talk about is one called Austroasiatic. And so Austroasiatic is in Southeast Asia. And the largest language spoken is Vietnamese. And there's many other languages, Cambodian and some others, but the largest language is spoken is Vietnamese down here in Vietnam, Cambodia, this area. Okay. The next one, there's one called Thai Kadai, and to be honest, there's not a ton to note right now. Some textbooks don't even make this into a separate language family, but it is something, this yellow one, that your textbook does talk about. Also, briefly, I just want to talk about, Korean and Japanese. You can see them here on here. You can't really see Japanese here. It's kind of off the page or covered up. And your textbooks decided that those are separate language families themselves. So Korean and Japanese got their own language families, even though both of them have borrowed pretty heavily. They're influenced by Chinese in a lot of different ways, both in terms of spelling, in terms of vocabulary, and things like that. So both Korean and Japanese are influenced by Chinese for a lot of historical reasons. Okay, down here in southern, this is in southern India, you've got this language family called Dravidian. And we're actually going to talk more about this a little bit, but this is the language of southern India. So some language, Tamil is probably the most widely known language. And it's thought that Dravidian was actually spoken throughout most of the southern Asia, and in most of India, Pakistan, and things like that. But when the Indo-Europeans swept in and kind of pushed them south, that's when Dravidian got pushed south. And so we'll actually talk a little bit more about that at another time. But South India is Dravidian. Okay, now just for the African ones, and there's this next one is called, this language family is called Afro-Asiatic. So I always remember that because it's the one that's both in Africa and in Asia. So Afro-Asiatic. And you can see this one again is here in this Arabian Peninsula, and up here in the Middle East, and pretty much all of North Africa is Afro-Asiatic. And the primary language by far is by far the biggest language is Arabic. And so we'll talk a lot more about how Arabic kind of was spread around, but Arabic obviously came out of the Arabian Peninsula, the Arabs, and through conquest and warfare, they spread Arabic throughout most of the Middle East and North Africa. And then there's some other languages that are not Arabic that are closely related. And then the other important language that is also closely related in Afro-Asiatic is Hebrew. So Hebrew, the language of the Jews, is also an Afro-Asiatic language, and it's spoken, of course, primarily, at least in this region, in Israel here. Okay, so that's kind of hard to see, but Hebrew and Arabic are actually quite closely related. Okay, so last couple ones, just point out these. There's two here in this category, two parts here. This is called Nilo-Saharan. And obviously it's named after where it is. And the Nile River is kind of the source. This is the source of the Nile River down here. And so that's partly where it gets its name. And then the Sahara Desert as well. And then the last one I wanted to mention is it's called Niger Congo. So Niger Congo is this blue one, and it's named after the two huge rivers in in Africa. And this is the, sorry, this is a language family that it has probably some of the oldest languages in the world. This is where humans first evolved. And so humans have been there for the longest period of time. So there's a lot of diversity within the Niger-Congo language family. And again, there's many languages spoken in Niger-Congo. There's a couple languages. One of the most widely spoken one, and we'll talk more about this, is it's a language that just a lot of people speak. They might speak 2 languages in this area, and one of them is often Swahili. And Swahili is spoken by many people in this area as a language that you can speak to other people. It's called a lingua franca. We'll actually talk a lot more about that in a couple classes. So that's a quick explanation of the different language families. Hopefully you were able to identify some important features, and you know, you're also going to read about it in your textbook, but I think hearing about it is also helpful. Okay, well, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.